Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 670. I had the black pieces. My opponent kicked off with e4, played e5, going for a classical setup against e4. He goes knight f3, I go knight c6, all the main moves, and now white plays a really weird move here. Although it is in the opening book, it's been tried before. Let's see, so the main moves are the bishop b5, the Spanish game, or Ruy Lopez, the bishop c4, the Italian game, d4, the Scotch game, knight c3, the four knights, c3, the Ponziani, or even bishop e2, the reverse Hungarian, are all more popular than g3. It's just a very slow way to play, and immediately gives up the opening advantage. In fact, in the database, it shows that black is doing pretty well in this position, and also the chess engine likes black already. But it is, well, you know, it's a different position. I have to improvise from move 3 here. But it's not too hard to find the moves. I mean, knight f6, a very logical move, putting pressure on the center. He defends with d3, c3. Knight to c3 would have been a little more to the point. Get a piece out. He's already wasted one extra pawn move, and now he's playing another. So he's had 3 pawn moves, and it's just giving me an opportunity to develop my pieces. Looks like I could already play d5 in this position, which is kind of interesting. But just getting another piece out can't be too bad. If he ever comes out and tries to pin the knight in this configuration, it's important to notice that you can always kick the bishop and force the bishop to go back or to trade, because the bishop gets trapped over here by the pawn push to g5. So I don't have to worry about the pin on the knight once g3 has been played. So it's easy to get the bishop outside the pawn chain and follow up with d6 or d5. Anyway, so he should go bishop g2 here. That would be the consistent way to follow up his play. Just prepare to castle and deal with the queen side later. Instead, he played bishop e3, challenging my bishop on c4. I could just take it. That would be all right. But I prefer to drop back. This is okay as well, and allow white to exchange if he wants to. Bishop takes, pawn takes. He decided to exchange, which is another little mistake. It gives me, it improves my a pawn. It turns it into a b pawn, and opens up this file for my rook. And that was his good bishop and my bad bishop. So that was wrong in a number of accounts. Let's see. He played c3 here. He really should get on with bishop g2. I castle. He plays bishop e2 when he should play bishop g2. And now I can play d5. And whenever you can play d5 in a king's pawn game like this with the double king pawns, if black can get away with the d5 move, it's usually a sign that he's at least equalized. And it's usually a good idea to play that move when you can. Just bust up the center, and particularly here where I have better development. I've castled and white hasn't. I've got 2 pieces out. And so whereas I should be a step behind in development, I'm actually a step ahead. And he can't castle now because I'm attacking his pawn. I really expected him to take. Although looking at it with the chess engine, the best line for white here is something like this: knight bd2, then I would take, he would take, and I would go bishop to h3. So this is a good position for black, but white can fight on. It's just, you know, there's been a series of little mistakes that white has made, but nothing that has given away the game yet. He's just given the advantage to black, and he has to play carefully to avoid losing, but it's still possible. It's still a game at this point, but after castling, this just loses. So I don't know, he just gave up a pawn here, and I took it. And then from this point on, every trade that the white makes is a mistake. And basically, if you're down a pawn, you want to avoid the endgame and try and get a complicated middle game. Find some way to win some material back, and don't go down to the endgame unless you are sure of getting some kind of a book draw. And if you do want to go to the endgame, then the endgame a pawn down, the one you want, is the endgame with the rook. The rook and pawn endgame down a pawn. It's often possible for white to hold that and get a draw, but he has to trade off as many pawns as possible and basically keep the pieces on. And he's just doing the opposite. He's taking the pieces off and leaving the pawns on. So it becomes a easy endgame win for me after a few more moves. So he continues to offer trades, and I'm happy to take them at this point. And still important to develop your pieces actively. The game doesn't win itself. You have to keep playing. Knight bd2, another mistake, because allows more trades. And so just like that, we've descended into the end game. And I played this move rook d8 kind of quickly, but it's a nice looking move there, pinning this knight and gaining some more time for me to get my pieces organized in the best possible way. I could have also taken on a2. The funny thing is the chess engine rates those two moves as about equivalent, so this pin over here is worth a pawn, I guess. In any case, I'm winning. Let's see, he comes over here with king f1. I play e4. Actually, e4 was not the most accurate move, but I have a way of holding on to that pawn. So it's not giving up the winning edge, but not the best move in that position. Let's see, he went king e2, I went f5, went knight to c4. And let's see, the best way for white to try and hold on here. First of all, he shouldn't be trading rooks. He should trade the knights if he can and keep the rooks on. As I said, the rook and pawn endgame is the one that's closest to being a drawable endgame. And the way to play here is to start trying to trade off some pawns, so with f3. So this is why my e5 move was maybe not the most accurate move. Even though I hold on to the pawn, I've kind of overextended here a little bit and allows him to force some trades. And the chess engine wants to play like this, giving up the rook. But yeah, actually maybe there's no way to avoid that trade of rooks and just play on like this. But it gives a +1 edge to black. Yeah, I would still have to be careful. You know, there's always tricks when there's knights on the board in a blitz game. But I think this game went so quickly that I probably had plenty of time on my clock at this point. Let's see. Knight to c4, just directly allowing the trade and not trying to trade pawns is not as good. Let's see, he goes king to d1, and I start bringing my king into the game. And he brings his king forward, so this is all normal stuff. King e3, and then I go with g5, just going to push my pawns forward and try and take advantage of my extra pawn in some way. And right here he plays f4, and this is kind of the final mistake. Let's see, he should play something like knight d2 and just try and hold on to things. Maybe then he could play f3 and try and win a pawn here. Of course, I would have to take if he played f3. I would still end up with an extra pawn on this side in that line. But what f4 does is it allows this this nice little tactic here. I take the pawn, it takes back with the king, and then this move here, knight e5 check, is a fork of the knight and the king. And although it doesn't win material, what it does win is the game, because it's much easier to win the king and pawn endgame when there aren't any other pieces on the board to complicate things. So let's see. He played g4 immediately, which is a mistake again, because that allows me to get a protected passed pawn. So he should wait and push those pawns forward when he can try and provoke a trade. But it really doesn't matter at this point. He's lost in any case. So now with this protected passed pawn, you know, it's only three moves actually away from queening. So his king is tied down to this box, can't move away. So that leaves me free to go over and scoop up pawns on the queen side. I just have to create some space for my king to get in. Let's see, he started with b3, so he's going to try and keep my king out. So notice I can't come here, here, or here to get over to the queen side pawns. So I have to push my pawns forward to try and break up this structure and open up some squares for my king. Let's see, he tries a4, I go king d5, just inching over here a little closer. He goes h3. It also runs him out of moves. I can go back and forth here, and he doesn't ever want to move his king, because I can step forward then. And then I can start running this pawn, which is another way to win. So in order to keep his king here, he has to start pushing pawns. And as he pushes these pawns forward, then this opens up squares for my king to get in. So I come over here. Oops, I went went to d4, king to d4, went to a5, takes, and I just start marching over here to gobble up this pawn. No, king to c4, okay. And he played h4, I defend with h6, he trades, and he plays king e4, and I step over here to attack this pawn. And as I said, he can't leave this pawn behind. He can never step in this direction because it queens. He can go this way a few squares, but when he gets over here, then this pawn also queens. So this king is limited to where it can run, and I'm going to have two extra pawns he can't. It's pretty easy. Okay. So anyway, that's it for this game. I hope you guys like this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.